All right, welcome everybody to another episode of the Big Doug and Carmi Show, your one-stop shop for all things Commanders. George is still out sick, but have no fear. Inside the command center, we'll keep on rolling today. Our guest from 106.7 is Grant Paulsen. Grant, how are you, buddy?
I'm doing well. Good to talk to you again, Doug. How you been?
It's been good. We have not had very many of these conversations when there's glowing things to be said. A reminder to all the folks out there: life isn't better when the team stinks.
You ain't kidding, man. 4-1, long time coming. It's just amazing how different the world is, right? From a personal standpoint, right? Like in our lives, the emotions and the mood that we're in. I mean, my kid, who, I've got a 5-year-old daughter, a 3-year-old boy, and a 1-year-old daughter. But my 3-year-old son, a couple weeks ago, asked my wife if he could get a Jaden Daniels jersey. He's never asked about the Commanders at all. This morning, I'm in his room playing with him, and he just middle of like playing with dinosaurs or whatever. He goes, "Is Terry McLaurin on the Commanders?" And like I don't know how he knows Terry McLaurin, but like we're connecting dots now, so it's happening at a very small level within my household. But yeah, man, just today, sitting down chatting with you, I'm doing a couple hits in Baltimore about the big game. Done a couple hits on local TV on 2 stations. Done a national thing. I mean, people care. Like, people are invested. They're interested. This is not only a team that right now is fascinating with a possible coach of the year, obviously the rookie of the year, maybe an MVP candidate, the coordinator of the year, assistant coach of the year in Kingsbury, all of those things, all those accolades through 5 weeks. But this is the game of the week in the NFL that they wanted to flex into prime time and networks were fighting over. So
Amazing to
fired up,
think
man. It's a good time.
amazing to think they were fighting over this team.
What a time to be alive. I mean, I've done the radio with Danny, the show that we do on 106.7 The Fan, in 2 different time slots since 2014. Obviously, I was on the beat for 4 years before that, covering the team every day. But I've been around the team with a credential kind of access since 1999, and I've never seen anything like this. Even the years where it was pretty good, and this, Doug, I'm preaching to the choir here, but like and your listeners can remember that they went on runs. 99, they were okay for most of the year. They got to 10-6, won the division, number 2 offense in the league under Norville Eugene. A really good year from Brad Johnson, threw for 4,000 yards, and Stephen Davis ran for 1,456. But like since then, 05, they had to win 5 games to make the playoffs. 07, they had to win 4 games to make the playoffs. 12, they had to win 7 in a row. Everyone comps this to 12 in the electricity in town. They were 3-6 through 9 games in 2012. 15 when they won their division, they 4 in a row. So we have not seen this team start hot like this and finish hot and win double-digit games in my adult lifetime. So we're in uncharted waters potentially here.
And Grant, you had mentioned all of those awards that they're, possibly in line for through the first quarter or so of the season. The only one you didn't mention was Executive of the Year.
Yeah.
I'd suggest that Adam Peters hasn't made a mistake yet. I mean, it's pretty wild to think of all the free agency brought in. 65% of the roster turns over. The draft picks, albeit early, look like they're playing well. It's not often where you just don't make a mistake. And it feels like he's pitching a no-hitter right now.
It really does. I mean, look, have they missed on guys possibly in their evaluation? I guess. But in the way that if you're not spending money on like Michael Davis, then the fact that you bench him and he's now on the back of the depth chart doesn't really matter. On the guys that they invested in, and really, I don't want to say put their necks on the line for, because that's not fair. I mean, it's so early in this process, but where they really bet big, they've hit home run after home run. The Daniels pick right now looks like a massive blast into the second deck. The selection of Brandon Coleman, which was one of the real, are we sure they didn't screw up at left tackle? It feels like they, didn't do enough there. Coleman looks like he's the answer, and they got him deeper into the draft than they should have been able to. And frankly, rolling with Cornelius Lucas and sticking by him looks like a pretty massive decision that went well. Also, he's been really good. The Biotish signing at $10 million a year, I think he's the unsung hero, maybe the best addition they've made. They gave Luvu a ton of money, and a lot of people, I think, around the league were kind of surprised by that. He got paid like a pretty stellar linebacker, like maybe an elite player. I knew a little bit about him, not a lot. I don't pretend to have known a lot about him. When I went back after they signed him and watched him, it took me about 5 minutes to fall in love. I was like, this dude is a badass. Like, this is a dog. So whether it's him, Bobby Wagner, like the guys that they actually paid have all delivered the goods. The draft picks, whether it's McCaffrey executing his role, it's not to say they've all been home runs, but they're all helping the guys that are on the field that are healthy. We're going to get more, I think, as Johnny Newton gets entrenched. He's at a position where he's in a rotation and just not getting a ton of reps necessarily. But, yeah, man, I think Peters is – I'll say this. He's got to be feeling himself right now because we put together a roster that we thought – they said they weren't rebuilding. They were recalibrating and finding North. It seems like they found North already.
I remember telling George they really did themselves a disservice by all the recalibration stuff. I mean, nobody likes saying rebuild, right? But if you say recalibration and it doesn't go very well, then you're under a little bit more scrutiny than if you just come out and say, hey, we know this is a rebuild. We know we flipped 60% of the roster. Like, bear with us. That is not what they wanted at all. And so far, so good. Grant, this is a team that hasn't averaged 20 points a game for a season in almost a decade. Here they are leading the league, and I think it goes in offense points per game. I think it goes to a point you made. Biotis is not getting nearly enough credit. Think about it. This is a team that lives in no huddle. They live in shotgun and pistol in these formations. And I mean, we don't see passes go flying over Jaden Daniels' head. Yeah. We're not scrambling. My understanding is he has a big role in trying to discern what the protections and the coverages are. I mean, if quarterback's the most important position on the field, it feels like center is second.
Totally. So a couple of things. I mean, one, I should make note that we didn't even mention Nick Allegretti, who was a backup that they signed as a starter, and they were right about. And Eckler, who a lot of people said was washed, who looks like he's shot out of a cannon every time he touches the ball and has been awesome. But to your point on Biotis, I haven't really even thought about the fact that they live in the gun and in the pistol, but you're right. I mean, how many times over the years, low snap, high snap, it's rare that a snap at the National Football League level doesn't get to the quarterback, like too low on the ground or too high. But not having ball placement does affect plays. And it has here for years where, guys bending down to catch it or reaching up, and now the handoff is out of sync. I mean, we've seen that time and time again. I don't remember that one time this year. They haven't had an aborted snap, under center, nothing like that. So they meaning Biotis and Daniels, have been in sync in a really healthy way. I also think it's just critical when you're talking about a young, inexperienced, and in this case, rookie quarterback. But a veteran center is invaluable in that relationship as far as just helping get calls out, shift some things, like on plays maybe where Jaden or any young quarterback is not going to see something or do the necessary thing. Biotis is going to have to clean up some of the mess sometimes, or just tell some of the guys up front where things are coming, what's happening, help point things out. And I think he's done that beautifully. But beyond all of those nuanced kind of what I'll say like 200, 300 level things that we don't think about every day, he's just been good, like run blocking, pass blocking, win rate. He's allowed, according to PFF, in nearly 200 dropbacks, one pressure, his assignment, and it was a hurry. That's the least effective pressure that there is. It just means, the quarterback got rid of the ball maybe a tick sooner than he wanted to because you were coming. Like, that's staggering to me through 5 games. So I really do think he's been awesome. But the line in general, man, if you would have told me they're doing this weird timeshare at left tackle, I would have crushed that idea. Like, it doesn't work really at this level. And we're always told, aren't we, you and I, Doug, and people listening, like, hey, man, your 5 guys got to be on the same page. They got to have 1,000 snaps together, and it's the continuity. They're like series by series, just rotating in Lucas and Coleman, and it's seamless. And then Allegretti on the left guard spot, Biotis. We knew Cosme was a dude. He's been very good for the most part. And Wiley, to his credit, has, I think, since the first half of first year, elevated his game. And I think they do a lot of things to help him, too. Like I was talking to, I don't know if you guys got to hear, but I was talking to Will Montgomery on my show yesterday, who's a longtime
Yeah.
center for the team. And he talked about jokingly, like his good buddies, Tyler Columbus. He said, we used to hide Tyler Columbus a little bit, but with play calling and design and structure and scheme, sometimes you can know where your deficiencies are. And I don't even want to knock Wiley. I think he's been very, very solid, but the line in general deserves a ton of credit, man. Daniels has made them better, no doubt. But they've also, I think, made him better. I mean, they have really helped him. I think they deserve credit for that.
Yeah, the last group tried that with Cosme, and it went terribly. To your point, the new offensive line coach, Bobby Johnson, who got, I think, a lot of heat, is the one kind of like signing that a lot of people didn't get because of his time there with the Giants. But if you go back to the Bills, those lines were pretty good. And so he probably deserves a little bit more credit than he gets. Grant, when you were watching Jaden, I know you watched him before he got here. What's something that maybe you've seen since he's been here that you weren't expecting?
Yeah, there's a few things actually. I think I got a rap somehow as someone that didn't like Jaden coming out. I was a huge Drake May guy.
Yeah.
Still think he's going to be a great player.
Mhm.
And, a lot of people hear that and kind of, that means you're out on my guy and how dare you. And that's just not the world that I live in. I really like Jaden Daniels. I have a Heisman Trophy winner ticket from early last season. He made me some money, and my wife and I went to Baton Rouge to go see him play at LSU. With the Tigers a couple of years ago. So I've always liked the player. I had concerns about a few things in his transition to the NFL. Notably, I thought he would take too many sacks by holding the ball. And there were some metrics along the way, not just pressure to sack percentage, which has been harped on ad nauseum, but like he scrambles an inordinate amount of the time when pressure and didn't throw. That's one thing that has been different than I expected and that he's been way better at. And it's really come the last few weeks. In week one, it was kind of what it was in college. That's a concern for me. I don't want my dual threat quarterback who can be an outstanding passer, and Jaden Daniels, as you've seen, can, to, at the first sign of trouble, pull the ball down and run. I think that is a bad trait. And we saw that against Tampa. And in college, if you look at the numbers on like throws when pressured, it's minuscule. It's like historically low stuff. That worried me. What we've seen over the last few weeks is when he's pressured, he gets out of the pocket and he keeps his eyes downfield and looks to either get a few yards or throw the football. That's the whole key. That's the winning formula. That's where you've got your potential MVP, right? Is do you leave the pocket to reset to throw? The other thing I would say is two other flaws. One, I was petrified about his frame. That has not been an issue, and to his credit, he has avoided contact more than I kind of thought he would. He had this ding on him, fair or unfair, of taking huge shots because some of the big ones he took were like alarmingly big. You've seen them. It's like collisions, like he's in a car crash. And he's done a pretty good job since the first couple of weeks. Remember, like he came off the field after taking a shot to the head in his first home game ever. I guess it wasn't to the head. That one was when he lost his wind, like to the ribs. He took the shot to the head in Tampa. So through 2 weeks, I was like, oh, no. And he's done a much better job. I mean, to an extent, it's football. It's violent. Anybody can get hurt. But they're really, if you look at the numbers historically, and I'm big into like just diving into precedent, I mean, there have not been quarterbacks his height that are as slender as him, drafted in the first round, that have sustained long careers. So in a lot of ways, I think he's going to be it seems like, a trailblazer and a guy that just laughs at your formulas, like, oh, you think that this is alarming pressure to sack percentage? Kick rocks. You think that, being this weight at this height is a problem? Watch me have a 14-year career and win MVP awards. And there'd be nothing better than that. And then the other thing was throwing to the middle of the field. He didn't do a lot of in college. I mean, it's never going to be I don't think something they do a ton of in this offense. Maybe they haven't had to. I don't mean just like checking the ball to a running back or Ertz on a little 9-yard drag, like down the field in those in-breaking dig routes you see in the NFL all the time, that Justin Jefferson, like money route, the 17 to 20-yard McLaurin square in. There hasn't been a whole lot of that between the hashes or the numbers. But there hasn't needed to be. Like nothing that they haven't done matters when you score more than everyone and no one can get you off the field. So those would have been some of my like little things that I was worried about in terms of the transition. And almost all of them, he has not only turned into non-factors, but he's really thrived. And it's been awesome to see. But I would just say I knew he could throw well. I didn't know, does he want to be a runner or does he want to be a thrower? And it seems to me like you even heard it this week, Doug, when he was doing that Lamar, the interview, but ahead of this Ravens game, and they asked him about him and Lamar. He's like, we're different style players. I think he really does want to be in the pocket and making throws. And that is music to my heart, man. I love that.
I was talking about this the other day, Grant, and I hope maybe you can break it down for our viewers a little bit better. This idea that he is running the no huddle as well as he is at this stage of his career, to me, I don't think people realize how difficult that is, because now he's got these hand signals for every different player. He's got to get everybody where they're at separately. A lot easier in the huddle. He's run it masterfully so far.
So I think he's in complete control of everything. And this is, a byproduct of that. It seems like, and this is the thing before the draft, you just don't know as a fan or media on the outside. It seems like he puts in the unbelievable amount of work that it takes to really master the offense, right? And have a plan and know what you're doing. So is it impressive what he's doing with tempo and no huddle? No doubt. I think it is a preparation thing. I just think that this guy, and we had another player, Luvu, come out this week, and I don't know if he's checking his time card and it's gospel, but his point was, like, I get in at 6 generally. This dude is already showered and, brushed his kids' teeth and given him a bath and, taking his mom to breakfast. Like, he's there. I mean, he's training, he's working, he's grinding, he's in the lab, he's in the film room. That's what I want out of my quarterback. I don't need you to have abs. I'm sure he does. I don't need you to go lift weights better. I don't need your workout video where you're dragging a truck behind you. I need you to watch film. Peyton Manning looked like somebody's uncle who couldn't, run at the company picnic, right? I need you to know where every defender is on every play and where everyone's supposed to be and how you can get them into good situations. And it seems like he's doing all of those things. So, yeah, I've been really impressed. The tempo thing, though, I think to some extent, I've had quarterbacks tell me this. It actually makes it easier on the quarterback sometimes because there's less thinking. When you're not subbing, neither is the defense. So they're staying in the same package, and the formation structures aren't going to change a ton necessarily. I think that's important. And then I think there's, the less thinking, more playing, like just to speed up the game a little bit in a way that's comfortable to the young quarterback, I think is actually really, really smart. And one of a lot of areas where Kingsbury, you want to talk about a guy that I was, speaking of guys that you didn't give enough credit to. I mean, Cliff Kingsbury, man, it's been a clinic. And the book on him. First half of seasons are always pretty scintillating, not like this, but he's run into some walls and really, second half has been a struggle. He hasn't had Jaden Daniels on his offenses, though. So I'm curious about that. But my God, has he been great.
He has been. I was going to ask you about Cliff. 34% of passes are screen passes. Is it sustainable that way, or will teams start figuring this out? The nice thing is they're able to run the ball, which I think helps them with some of these other things. But it's a big number. It's way higher than the league average.
It is. What I would say is, yeah, I think it's pretty sustainable. I think this is in some ways the trend in the league. Like if you look at intended air yards, where, by the way, Jaden Daniels, because of some of the long shots the last couple of weeks, has now crept up to over 7 yards per pass. Now the leaders in the league are guys like Brock Purdy, 10 yards per attempt, Jordan Love, and this is IAY. So this is like how many yards the ball travels on throws. Daniels was kind of at the bottom the first month of the season, and he's now closer to, just outside of the top half of the league, somewhere between probably like 16 and 20 if I did the math. But Patrick Mahomes is dead last at 5 yards per throw. Right. Baker Mayfield, who's having an incredible year, everybody's raving about, 5.6, right? Tua before he got hurt in that offense. I know they were struggling, but that's an electric kind of scheme, 6.1. Aaron Rodgers not having a great year with the Jets, 6.5. Goff's been an MVP candidate, 6.8. Geno Smith was leading the league in passing going into Thursday Night Football, 6.9. I bring this up to say, like, this is what the league is. I've never had a problem with horizontal passing game. I jokingly was calling Kingsbury's offense the horizontal raid all offseason. That's fine with me. Now, you do have to take shots, though. You can major in that, but I still need you to minor in the stuff down the field, which we didn't really see at all against Tampa. They tried the one throw to Terry that he overthrew. But what's different now is that they are hitting when they go down the field. They do have some vertical elements to the passing game. But I think, this is what the passing game is going to be. They're going to get the ball to their running backs, short, safe. They're going to screen people to death and try to pick up a handful. They got physical receivers. Why isn't Jahan Dotson here? Why did they love Luke McCaffrey? Because he blocks his ass off on those screens, because he gets out in space and he's willing and physical. Like that's going to be a staple. They want to, pound you, run the football, and make safe, accurate, short throws most of the time. And I love it. I think the league is about possessing the football, essentially like taking what's given to you. And with everyone playing too high, with multiple safeties and trying to take away the over-the-top stuff, what's there is the run game, which is coming back in vogue. And nobody runs it better than the Ravens and the Commanders, these two teams playing this week. And the short passing game. So if you're giving me 5, I'm taking 5. That's a win. It's now 2nd and medium. And that's what they've done. 1st and 10 is 2nd and 4. 2nd and 4 is 3rd and 1. 3rd and 1, you either have the ability to just pick it up and get 2, or they've taken some shots because they go for it on 4th down. And by the way, they're 8 for 8 on 4th down. And they're maybe one of the best teams in the league on 3rd down. So if they win on 1st and 2nd like they have, they're almost unstoppable, because Daniels is a cheat code in that little read option. We've seen it with Lamar for years, right? That good luck. I mean, how do you stop that when they need a yard or two and you've got to account and play 11 on 11 for Daniels and Eckler and Robinson? They got them both in the backfield at the same time. It's a really impressive thing they've drawn up here.
You've been around football for a long time. You've been credentialed before. No Brian Robinson through the open available media portion today. How likely does that make it that he doesn't play on Sunday? And if he doesn't, how big of a loss is that?
That's a really good question. So first, it is a big loss in a game like Baltimore, I think. I know McNichols has played very well and Eckler has been fantastic. Part of why Eckler's been fantastic is seemingly the pitch count that they have him on. Now, this is where they're smart and I'm not. Like, I would involve him more because it's a sugar high. It's candy. It's a donut, right? Like, I'm like, Austin Eckler's the best. Give him the ball. And they're like, I need him in 14 weeks. So relax. But I think you could turn up the fader on him a little bit. Like, they're in that, 6 to 10 touch mode, it seems like. I'd like to be in the 10 to 14 touch mode, because on catches especially, if he chooses to, he could get to the sideline most of the time, I would think, or at least, avoid a big hit. Now, he gets popped. I mean, we've seen it, right? This guy gets drilled. He's a smaller guy. Talk to him about that. He's actually on the show with us every Tuesday. He's been awesome. I love this dude. He comes on with us at 5 p.m. And if people have not heard him, you want to talk about a guy that's going to be an analyst, Doug? Yeah. I mean, what does he want to do? Does he want to be in the front office? He'll have an opportunity. Does he want to call games? In the booth as a color commentator, he'll be able to do that. But I think, Robinson could play on a limited amount if he's practicing when the media leaves, right? If he's listed DNP, then he's out. If it's limited because, like, he wasn't there when the media was there, they could be playing some games, honestly. And right. That would be that's within their right. I would just say, here's what I can add to this. Brian Robinson was furious in the locker room after the last game.
Because he wanted to play more.
I thought that was why. That was my takeaway. It is possible, and now I'm speculating, but if he's, legitimately now still dinged at the end of the week, they made it sound like there wasn't a re-aggravation or a retweak. Maybe he wasn't 100% or didn't like where he was. The vibe I got was he was mad that he didn't get to play in the second half. But that was my own speculation. All I can say is, not speculating, I mean, he was stewing at his locker, like legitimately angry. And I went up to him anyway just to talk to him because he had scored 2 touchdowns to try to get a quick interview. And understandably, he wasn't in the mood. But that has my kind of wheels churning a little bit as to, is it possible something happened there? I don't know. I guess long-winded answer. I'm going to say that if he does play, he's not Brian Robinson. He's, a limited version of it. And it is a pretty substantial loss in a game where you got to be physical and run the football on the Ravens. Because I think McNichols and Eckler are similar guys, and neither are the battering ram that you really want Robinson to be. Even in those games where he's not running for a lot of yards, like that Bengals game, the over and over physical nature is not only going to wear them down, but it also sets a lot of other things up.
All right, let's talk about the game on Sunday just a little bit before we get you out of here. Do they have any chance of slowing Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson down? And if so, how?
So first thing I think they got to do is I would give up some plays in the middle of the field to the Ravens in the passing game and bank on a Lamar Jackson miss here or there to get off the field, inaccurate, or an interception, a tipped ball, a batted ball, somebody jumps a route, something. But I think I would almost always say take away anything through the air and give them 5 at a time on the ground, because they're not going to go on a 12-play drive for 80 yards and a touchdown. There's going to be a holding penalty. They'll get behind the chains. There's going to be a turnover. The problem with that is that's what Baltimore wants to do, just like Washington. I mean, that's kind of the bread and butter. So I actually think you want to force them into more of a passing situation by running bare fronts. So we're going 5 across the line. And I'm doing, early, I'm run blitzing. I want to force them into obvious passing downs, getting them in as many 3rd and longs as possible. That's the key, I think, to beating the Ravens first and foremost. But also, I think that if you can get them, like I said, to throw the ball, there are for all of the amazing Lamar plays, there's going to be way more of those, by the way. And those are the ones you'll see afterwards when the game ends. There are those, and Ravens fans know this, whether they'll admit it or not. There are those plays where he kind of hops around and then runs into someone and the ball comes out and he loses. Like, you need 2 of those basically, and the whole game's different. On a 60-snap day, you need one time where you force a fumble and another time where a ball goes off Isaiah Likely's hand and gets picked off by Quan Martin, right? If you can get 2 moments like that, the whole thing changes. So that would kind of be my game plan. I don't want to die by paper cut here. Can they stop them? No. But they can make it a lot harder by just saying, this is not going to be a Derrick Henry day. If you look at the numbers this season, I was on Next Gen Stats earlier. I've got it in front of me because I pulled it up. On runs against 8+ defenders in the box, Derrick Henry, as you'd imagine, is right up near the top of the league in terms of the percentage. 28% of his runs are against 8 in the box. There are guys who have run more often, 6 of them. But it still hasn't helped. He's still the number 2 rusher in the league. So the answer isn't just like committing assets. Some of it is, I'll give Derrick Henry his 5.5 so that Lamar's not ripping off 40. And maybe that's the biggest picture point. I'd rather lose to Derrick Henry than Lamar, in the sense of I'm not going to let Lamar Jackson get out of the pocket and break my back for 40 yards. If I got to spy him, I'm doing that. You know what I mean? Like, that's got to be part of the plan. With Henry, we've seen it. He's a home run hitter too. But I think Lamar is the guy that worries me more. And this is actually something we want to talk about, here on our last preview show, is who worries you more? Like, what's your answer to that? I mean, Henry, just death by paper cut, or Lamar, because at any moment he can snatch your soul?
It doesn't feel like we have an answer for Derrick Henry. Like, I'm with you on the idea that Lamar scares you, because just like we've seen Jaden do, he'll rip you for 40 or 50 up the sideline, and then you're like, geez. But if I'm on the defense, I can't imagine anything more frustrating than watching Derrick Henry just smash into our defense over and over again. And then all of a sudden, you just, to your point about Brian Robinson, right? You're just so tired that to me, that's when Lamar gets loose. I don't know whether you prefer to force Lamar to be a passer by committing everything to the run. I think it'll be fascinating what Quinn decides to do here. That's for sure.
Yeah. Like, to me, they have this philosophy. I was talking in the locker room to, I think it was Benjamin St. Just said this.
Who's having a fantastic year, by the way.
Yeah, he's been, I think, a lot better than people give him credit for. But BSJ was talking about Joe Witt's paradigm of ball is life. And he's like, you wouldn't believe how often, he says that, or he's just harping on that. And it has not been a strength. I mean, they do not really get takeaways. They have not yet. But I only mention that to say this is not a game where you are expected defensively to shine. And I don't think it's realistic in this matchup to think this is going to go that well. Like, I'd like to shove it on Deshaun Watson and the Browns because they're a horrendous offense. That's the worst offense in the league. They're 8th worst in the last 40 years via DVOA. And that guy is broken and shouldn't even be starting. Like, it's an unserious operation. So you should shove it on them and go get a bunch of sacks. They're playing rock, paper, scissors to find out who gets to stay on the field to get to Deshaun Watson and beat his butt on the next play, right? That was last week. This is not that. And my point is, I need 3 plays. I need 3 big plays and a couple of takeaways. And if you can do that, that might be enough. You need your offense to be awesome. If the offense isn't awesome, now it's a whole different conversation, and you're probably not winning anyway. But that would kind of be my preaching point this week is, and I would probably up the expectation, but like, my bid if I'm in front of the room as a coach, like, all right, I'm Thanos. I need 5 stones. Who's giving them to me? And like I'm putting little, the little like beads or whatever on all their desks, and like, you get a stone if you get me a pick. You get a stone if you force a fumble on a takeaway. Who is putting the stones in my fingers or whatever the hell the thing is from Avengers. But like, I need 5 of those plays. You're gonna have a lot of bad ones. They're gonna get theirs too. Make plays. This is kind of how I'm changing my mind, not my mind, but my philosophy a little bit, even on offense, on quarterback play. I like, just traditionally, I'm such a fan of like slinging the ball and pocket passing and efficiency and accuracy. And Jaden's been all those things, for the record. But like, around the league, my global view is changing on like a lot of the play-to-play stuff doesn't really matter. It's a playmakers league. So like last week against the Browns, just in a vacuum, that game, Jaden Daniels in the first half, like, missed a lot of things. He, had the bad interception on the goal line, missed Ertz in the end zone, missed what could have been like a 98-yard touchdown Ertz in the middle of the field from his own goal line. Like, there were some of those where he was just off for the first time. And I'm sitting here going, darn, this is the first half where really you go, he's struggling. And then he hits that home run touchdown, and he's made 2 incredible plays, and they have 24 points. And I'm like, who cares about, like, it's not about your batting average necessarily, or like the PFF grade on like on that play, win or loss. Are the good plays so good, right? Are the wins so big? And like, I'm thinking about the same way defensively right now. Jaden's play was the 66-yarder to Terry out of the pocket that no one can make. What's the defensive version of that after you've made, the offense had 5 bad plays in a row before that? We forgot because they're on the goal line. You know what I mean? So that's kind of my philosophy in this game, if that makes any sense.
It does. Let's get out of here on this. It's 51.5 is the over-under. Do you think it will be an explosive game like that? Or in the end, will this be 2 teams that want to grind each other till the game ends?
No, I think it will be pretty explosive. They both want to run the ball, and points come from the passing game, but I think the explosives are going to come off the fact that you have to, like we're talking about. If you let them run the ball, then they're eventually going to score. It's just going to take longer. And then the explosives come from actually trying to stop that, like trying to take them out of their strength. I typically almost never take an over in the 50s. It's just a bad bet most of the time. And I will not this weekend. But I certainly do think this is a shootout kind of a vibe. And the score I've been predicting is like 27-23, 30-24, so kind of splitting the difference on that total. Yeah, I wouldn't go over, but I certainly think it's going to be right around there. It's in play. I think it'll be if you're saying high scoring or low scoring, I'm expecting high scoring. I don't think either defense is right now that good and built to stop the other offense.
Yeah, this isn't the same Ravens defense that we've seen the last couple of years. That is for sure. Grant, I appreciate you, buddy. This was great.
Thank you, man. Good catching up again. Yeah, good talking to you.
I know George was upset he couldn't be here, so we'll have to do it again sometime.
Yeah, tell George I said what's good. Hope he feels better. Yeah, we'll get after the next 4-game winning streak. Let's run it back.
There you go. That sounds good. Thanks, buddy.
See you, man.